Have you ever wondered if happiness is something you can really control? In a world where everything feels like it's outside of our hands, where we're constantly chasing the next big goal or waiting for the perfect moment, could happiness actually be something that we can choose every single day? It's a provocative thought, isn't it? Today, we're going to take a journey into the heart of Stoic philosophy with none other than Epictetus as our guide. He wasn't just any philosopher, he was a former slave who rose to become one of the most influential minds in the ancient world, shaping the way we understand personal resilience, happiness, and inner peace. And his message about happiness? Well, it's not what you might expect. If you think happiness depends on external events, like a new job, a perfect relationship, or the latest material possession, Epictetus challenges that belief head-on. What if I told you that happiness isn't something you can buy, achieve, or wait for? It's something you can choose to create right now, in the present? How powerful would that be? In this video, we'll break down how Epictetus viewed happiness, why it's not something that happens to us, but something that we actively cultivate, and most importantly, how you can apply these Stoic principles to your life. It's about learning how to respond to life's challenges, shift your perspective, and create a mindset of happiness regardless of what's going on around you. But before we dive in, I want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Your support means the world to me and helps the channel grow. Also, if you find this content valuable and want to show some extra love, don't forget to hit that super thanks button. It's a great way to help support the channel and keep these videos coming. So, are you ready to learn how to take control of your happiness? Let's get started. Happiness is often seen as something we chase, something that depends on external circumstances. We believe that happiness is tied to what happens to us. A promotion at work, a new relationship, or a vacation to an exotic destination. But what if happiness isn't something we can grasp through external achievements? What if it's something we can choose, something we can cultivate regardless of what happens around us? In the midst of today's fast-paced, ever-changing world, it's easy to feel like we have little control over our happiness. We face constant pressure from work, society, and personal struggles. However, the philosophy of Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher from ancient Greece, offers a different perspective. Happiness is not determined by the world around us, but by how we respond to it. In his view, we have the power to choose how we react to life's challenges, and this power is the key to finding lasting happiness. Epictetus was born into slavery, and despite the hardships he endured, he became one of the most influential philosophers in history. His teachings form the foundation of Stoicism, a philosophy that emphasizes rationality, self-control, and virtue as the paths to true contentment. One of his most powerful assertions is that we cannot control the events of our lives, but we can control our responses to those events. This distinction between what is in our control and what is not is the cornerstone of his philosophy. Epictetus taught that by focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and judgments, we can maintain peace of mind and find happiness, regardless of external circumstances. Epictetus's idea is radical in its simplicity. Happiness is a choice. This concept might seem strange at first. After all, how can we choose to be happy in the face of adversity? Aren't external circumstances like losing a job, experiencing illness, or facing failure enough to strip away any chance of happiness? Epictetus would argue otherwise. He believed that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. It's this power over our responses that determines whether we experience peace or turmoil. To illustrate this point, let's consider a real-life example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. You're running late, and frustration starts to build. It's easy to feel helpless, angry, or stressed. But is this reaction truly helpful? According to Epictetus, we cannot control the traffic, but we can control our reaction to it. We can choose to accept the situation, shift our focus, and use the time to listen to a podcast or reflect on our day. This simple shift in perspective allows us to maintain our inner peace, even in the face of external frustration. The Stoic principle that we can control our reactions but not the events themselves, is more relevant today than ever. In our modern world, we are bombarded with constant stimuli. Social media notifications, news headlines, and pressures from work and relationships. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and out of control. But Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our power, the way we think, the way we behave, and the way we perceive the world around us. By practicing this principle, we can reduce anxiety, manage stress, and find happiness even in challenging times. Take, for example, the pressure many people feel in their careers. It's common to tie our sense of self-worth to our job titles, salary, or professional success. But this external validation can be fleeting. One job promotion or raise doesn't guarantee long-term happiness. In fact, many people find that once they achieve their career goals, they still feel unfulfilled. Epictetus would argue that true happiness doesn't come from external accolades or achievements, but from within. If we learn to focus on what we can control, our work ethic, our approach to challenges, and our attitudes, we can find fulfillment regardless of the outcome. This idea of cultivating happiness through internal control is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus's teachings offer a roadmap for achieving a calm, centered life, free from the turbulence of external circumstances. He believed that by focusing on our thoughts and actions, we can create a stable foundation of happiness that isn't dependent on the ups and downs of life. Epictetus also emphasized the importance of accepting what we cannot change. This acceptance doesn't mean passivity or resignation. It means recognizing the limits of our power and learning to navigate the world with grace. When we fight against things we cannot control, whether it's traffic, a difficult boss, or an unexpected setback, we waste energy on things that don't serve us. Instead of resisting reality, Epictetus taught that we should accept it and focus on what we can do within the constraints we face. This mindset of acceptance can be life-changing. For instance, let's say you receive bad news, perhaps a loved one falls ill or a project at work falls apart. It's natural to feel upset or disappointed, but the key question is how you respond. You can either dwell on the negative emotions or accept the situation for what it is and focus on what you can do to move forward. Acceptance doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging the situation and deciding how you will act in response to it. In today's world, where anxiety and stress are all too common, Epictetus's teachings provide a profound remedy. By learning to control our reactions and accept the things we cannot change, we can create a sense of inner peace that is not easily shaken. We can choose to live with purpose, focus on what truly matters, and find joy in the present moment no matter what happens around us. Ultimately, Epictetus's philosophy isn't just about abstract ideas or intellectual musings. It's about applying these principles in our everyday lives. It's about choosing to focus on our thoughts, practicing acceptance, and cultivating inner strength in the face of adversity. In this way, we can build a life that is not dependent on external circumstances, but on our own capacity for resilience, growth, and happiness. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the teachings of Epictetus offer a powerful reminder. Happiness is not a fleeting emotion that depends on what happens to us. It is a state of mind, a choice that we can make each and every day. By choosing how we respond to life, we take back control of our happiness and create a life that is fulfilling, peaceful, and truly our own. This understanding of happiness as a choice allows us to let go of the notion that we are at the mercy of external forces. It encourages us to take responsibility for our emotional well-being, to focus on what we can control, and to embrace acceptance and resilience in the face of life's challenges. Through this, we can learn to cultivate happiness, not as a distant goal, but as a living, breathing part of our everyday experience. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, has a simple yet profound way of viewing happiness. It is not something that happens to us. Instead, happiness is the result of how we choose to react to the circumstances of life. This idea, challenges many of the conventional ways we think about happiness today, particularly in a world where success and satisfaction are often tied to external events such as wealth, status, and achievements. For Epictetus, happiness is not something that is handed to us by fate or by the people around us. It is something that we can actively choose, and the power of this choice is at the very heart of his philosophy. Epictetus's fundamental belief is that the world around us is outside our control. We cannot dictate the actions of others, nor can we stop unfortunate events from happening. This is a hard truth, especially in today's society, where people are often led to believe that they can control everything around them. From the cars we drive to the jobs we hold, the friendships we maintain, and even the technology we use, we often believe that happiness lies in external factors. But Epictetus would argue that this is an illusion. While we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond to what happens. The Stoic idea of choice becomes incredibly powerful when we realize that it is the one thing in our life that is truly within our power. When we face challenges, losses, disappointments, or even successes, we have the ability to choose how we perceive these events and how we react to them. This does not mean that we should simply ignore our emotions or pretend that difficult circumstances don't affect us. Instead, it means that we should take ownership of our reactions and not let our emotions dictate our state of being. A concrete example of this idea is found in the way people react to criticism. Imagine you are at work and receive harsh feedback from your boss. The natural instinct might be to feel defensive, angry, or hurt. But according to Epictetus, you don't have to let these feelings take control. Instead, you can choose to see the feedback as an opportunity to grow and improve. The feedback itself may not be something you can control, but how you respond to it is entirely up to you. This shift in perspective allows you to take something that could have been negative and transform it into something useful. This brings us to a key idea in Stoicism, the notion that our emotions are within our control. In modern times, we often think of emotions as uncontrollable forces that we have to endure. We say things like, "I couldn't help it, I was so angry," or "I couldn't stop feeling sad." However, Epictetus teaches that this is a misconception. While we cannot always control the initial emotional response to a situation, we have the power to decide how we process and act on those emotions. In his view, emotions arise from our judgments about external events. If we judge something to be bad, we may feel anger or frustration. If we judge something to be good, we may feel joy or excitement. But these judgments are within our control, and by changing the way we interpret events, we can alter the way we feel. For example, take the experience of waiting in a long line at a grocery store. Many people would view this as an annoying, frustrating situation. They might feel irritated and impatient, as if their time is being wasted. But what if you chose to view it differently? Instead of focusing on the inconvenience of the situation, you could focus on the fact that you have a moment to relax, reflect, or even practice mindfulness. You might choose to listen to a podcast, catch up on your thoughts, or simply enjoy the quiet time. This shift in perspective is what Epictetus refers to when he talks about the power of choice. Even in an unavoidable situation like waiting in line, you still have the ability to choose how you will respond. The power of choice is also crucial in how we deal with hardship and suffering. Life is full of challenges, and Epictetus acknowledges this. However, he argues that our suffering is often magnified not by the event itself, but by how we react to it. Take the example of losing a job. Losing a job is undeniably difficult, but how we respond to that loss is within our control. We can choose to be devastated, to wallow in self-pity, and to view the situation as an insurmountable failure. Or we can choose to see it as an opportunity to re-evaluate our life, to explore new possibilities, and to develop new skills. The choice is ours. Epictetus would argue that in these moments of suffering, we have an opportunity to choose how we view the world and how we respond to adversity. This power of choice, when embraced, can help us transform hardship into personal growth. One of the reasons why the power of choice is so significant in Stoic philosophy is because it gives us a sense of control in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable. If we place our happiness in external circumstances, then we are at the mercy of a world that is constantly changing. Success may bring temporary joy, but it can be fleeting. Relationships may offer comfort, but they can also disappoint. The stock market may rise, but it can crash just as easily. However, by understanding that our happiness comes from within and is shaped by our reactions to life's events, we gain the freedom to cultivate contentment regardless of external circumstances. Consider the example of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, whose experience in Nazi concentration camps taught him the power of choice in the face of extreme suffering. Frankl observed that while prisoners could not control their circumstances, they could choose how they responded to them. He argued that the ultimate freedom we have as humans is the ability to choose our attitude toward any given situation, no matter how dire. This idea is very much in line with the Stoic belief that our reactions are where true power lies. Frankl's experience in the concentration camps demonstrated that even in the most brutal conditions, a person could maintain their sense of dignity and purpose by choosing to focus on what was still within their control, their thoughts and attitudes. Another powerful example is the story of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison under apartheid in South Africa. While imprisoned, Mandela could not control the conditions of his confinement or the political system that oppressed him. Yet, he chose to respond with resilience, focusing on his inner strength and commitment to justice. Mandela's ability to choose his response to imprisonment and hardship ultimately contributed to his role in ending apartheid and becoming the president of South Africa. His life is a testament to the idea that while we cannot always control the events that happen to us, we can control how we respond, and it is this response that shapes our lives. The importance of the power of choice also extends to how we handle everyday frustrations. In a world filled with distractions, irritations, and obstacles, it can be easy to lose sight of our ability to choose our responses. But Epictetus teaches that in every moment, no matter how trivial it may seem, we have a choice. Whether it's dealing with a rude colleague, a delayed flight, or an uncooperative customer service representative, we can choose to react with patience and understanding, or with frustration and anger. The Stoic approach encourages us to focus on what is within our control and let go of the things that are not. This practice of choosing how we react requires effort, and it doesn't always come naturally. It takes discipline, self-awareness, and a commitment to personal growth. But the rewards are profound. By taking responsibility for our responses, we free ourselves from the tyranny of external circumstances. We stop being victims of fate and become active participants in our own lives. The power to choose our reactions is not just a theoretical concept. It is a practical tool that, when applied consistently, can lead to greater peace, fulfillment, and happiness. In conclusion, the power of choice is one of the most important aspects of Stoic philosophy. By recognizing that our happiness comes not from external events, but from how we respond to them, we reclaim control over our emotional well-being. Epictetus teaches us that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can always control how we choose to react. This choice is the key to living a life of peace, purpose, and happiness, regardless of the challenges we face. When we embrace the power of choice, we realize that the ultimate freedom lies not in controlling the world around us, but in controlling how we engage with it. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, presented a clear and transformative distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. This distinction is at the core of Stoic philosophy and serves as a foundation for personal growth, emotional resilience, and true happiness. According to Epictetus, there are two categories of things in life: those that are within our control and those that are not. Understanding this divide and, more importantly, focusing on what we can control is key to navigating life's challenges with grace and maintaining a sense of inner peace. The first category, the things within our control, includes our thoughts, judgments, and actions. This is the realm where we possess full authority. Our reactions to events, the way we interpret situations, and how we choose to engage with the world around us are all within our grasp. These internal elements are what we have the power to shape. Epictetus teaches us that while we cannot control external events, we can control how we respond to them. By focusing on the things we can control, we can cultivate emotional resilience, peace of mind, and ultimately happiness. The second category, those things beyond our control, encompasses everything outside of our own thoughts, judgments, and actions. This includes external events, the behavior of others, and natural occurrences that we simply cannot influence. For instance, we cannot control the weather, the economy, the actions of other people, or even the natural aging process. Recognizing that these things lie beyond our control is critical to avoiding unnecessary frustration and emotional turmoil. Many of us spend a significant portion of our time trying to control these uncontrollable aspects of life, and when we fail, we often find ourselves stressed, upset, and defeated. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is that our mental and emotional well-being depend on how we engage with the things within our control and how we accept the things that are outside of our influence. The more we focus on our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, the more we empower ourselves to navigate life's inevitable obstacles. The Stoic mindset encourages us to relinquish our attachment to the uncontrollable and instead cultivate mastery over our internal world. Consider a situation where you're faced with a frustrating encounter at work. Perhaps a colleague or a boss gives you negative feedback on a project you've worked hard on. The natural instinct might be to feel defensive, frustrated, or even angry. However, according to Epictetus, the way you react to this feedback is entirely within your control. You can choose to view the criticism as an opportunity for growth and improvement, or you can let it affect your self-esteem and lead to feelings of resentment. In this situation, you have the power to control your emotional response, and the way you choose to react will ultimately determine your mental and emotional state. Similarly, imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. The traffic is completely out of your control, and the stress of being late is building up. You might feel frustration rising, but instead of allowing the situation to overwhelm you, you can choose to accept that the traffic is beyond your control. You might decide to listen to an audiobook, reflect on your thoughts, or even practice mindfulness. This shift in mindset allows you to remain calm and composed, rather than letting anger or stress dictate your mood. These examples highlight how we can shift our focus to what's within our control, our mindset, and our reactions, instead of ruminating on things that are beyond our influence. We can take ownership of our responses and find peace despite external circumstances. By doing so, we free ourselves from the emotional burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. The notion of focusing on the controllable aspects of life is particularly valuable when dealing with stress and adversity. Consider the story of a person who loses their job. The loss itself is certainly painful, but it's also inevitable that setbacks like these occur in life. Many people might respond to such a situation with despair, anger, or self-pity. However, Epictetus would suggest that while the job loss itself is beyond the person's control, how they respond to it is entirely within their grasp. They can choose to feel defeated, or they can choose to view the situation as an opportunity for growth, perhaps to explore new career paths, or to pursue passions that were previously sidelined. By focusing on how they respond to the loss, the individual can transform a negative event into a positive and empowering experience. Take another example of a relationship falling apart. Breakups, divorces, or the dissolution of any kind of meaningful relationship can be deeply painful and challenging. However, much like the other examples, the way we react to the breakup is within our control. We can choose to become consumed by sadness and anger, or we can choose to reflect on the lessons learned, grow from the experience, and eventually move on. The emotional process of healing and recovery is not an easy one. But by focusing on how we respond to the situation and acknowledging what we can control, our attitude and emotional resilience, we can navigate the difficulty with strength and clarity. These examples highlight the practical application of Epictetus's teachings on controlling our reactions. In all of these cases, while external events may cause pain or frustration, how we react to them is what determines whether or not we suffer. It's not that we're ignoring the reality of the situation or pretending that it doesn't affect us. It's that we choose not to let those external events control our emotional state or dictate our sense of peace. By focusing on what we can control, we are able to create a mental space where external events, while still impactful, no longer have the power to disrupt our inner peace. It's not about denying our emotions or pretending that life's challenges don't affect us. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to them. To further explore the practical side of this concept, let's consider a scenario involving health. Imagine someone is diagnosed with a serious illness. The diagnosis itself is an external event that cannot be controlled, and it may bring a sense of fear, confusion, or sadness. However, what is within the individual's control is how they respond to the diagnosis. They can choose to approach their illness with a mindset of acceptance and resilience, focusing on the actions they can take to improve their health, or they can choose to let fear and anxiety overwhelm them. The power to choose one's response is what allows people to maintain a sense of dignity, hope, and peace even in the face of difficult challenges. This distinction between what we can and cannot control is not just a theoretical concept, it's a practical guide for living a more peaceful and fulfilling life. By focusing on the things we can control, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, we empower ourselves to face the inevitable challenges of life with confidence and grace. This shift in focus allows us to free ourselves from the anxiety and frustration that comes from trying to control things outside our influence. It also helps us maintain emotional stability, as we're no longer at the mercy of external events. Instead, we become active participants in our own lives, making choices that align with our values and beliefs, rather than reacting impulsively to every situation. The wisdom of Epictetus lies in his ability to help us realize that happiness and inner peace come from within. They are not dependent on the uncontrollable forces of the external world, but on how we choose to engage with those forces. The more we embrace this truth and focus on what we can control, the more we can cultivate a life of resilience, strength, and tranquility. It's not about ignoring the difficulties of life, but rather about empowering ourselves to face those difficulties with a clear mind, a steady heart, and a belief in our ability to choose how we respond. By practicing this focus on the controllable and relinquishing our attachment to the uncontrollable, we can free ourselves from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies life's challenges. We can navigate the ups and downs of life with a sense of purpose and clarity, knowing that, while we cannot control everything, we always have the power to control how we respond. And in that power, we find the freedom to live a life of greater peace and happiness. The concept of acceptance in Stoic philosophy plays a pivotal role in maintaining inner peace and emotional stability. Epictetus and other Stoic philosophers emphasized that one of the key steps to achieving tranquility in life is recognizing the limitations of our control and coming to terms with those things that we cannot change. Acceptance in this context is not about passive resignation, but about an active choice to focus on what we can influence while letting go of the need to control the uncontrollable. In everyday life, we often encounter situations that are beyond our control. For instance, we cannot control the weather, the actions of other people, or the course of events that unfold in the world around us. But the one thing we do have control over is how we respond to these external circumstances. Acceptance, according to Stoic philosophy, is about acknowledging that these uncontrollable events will occur regardless of our desires or efforts to change them. It is the realization that fighting against reality only leads to frustration and suffering. Instead, we are encouraged to accept the reality of the situation as it is, rather than wasting energy resisting it. At its core, acceptance in Stoic philosophy is about recognizing the difference between what is in our power to change and what is not. It's a mental shift from trying to force the world to bend to our will to instead aligning ourselves with the flow of life, making peace with things that are beyond our influence. This shift is not about passivity. It's about understanding that true freedom comes from within. By accepting things as they are, we release ourselves from unnecessary stress and open the door to peace and emotional well-being. To understand the power of acceptance, consider the example of a person who faces the loss of a job. The job loss itself is an external event over which the person has little control. They cannot change the decision made by their employer or the circumstances that led to the layoff. However, how the person responds to this loss is entirely within their control. They can either resist the situation by becoming angry, frustrated, or bitter, or they can accept the reality of the situation and choose to move forward. Acceptance here means acknowledging the pain of the loss, but also means choosing not to let that pain control their life. Instead of becoming consumed by negative emotions, the individual can focus on what they can control, their next steps, their attitude, and the actions they can take to move forward. This process of acceptance allows us to free ourselves from the mental traps of anger, resentment, and frustration. Often, our suffering is amplified not by the events themselves, but by our refusal to accept the reality of the situation. By clinging to the belief that things should be different, we waste precious mental and emotional energy, which only exacerbates our distress. Acceptance, on the other hand, helps us break free from this cycle. When we accept the way things are, we stop struggling against the current and can begin to navigate life with greater ease. Acceptance, however, does not mean that we give up hope or stop striving for improvement. It's important to distinguish between acceptance and resignation. Resignation is the belief that nothing can be done, that we are powerless, and that we should not even attempt to make a positive change. Acceptance, on the other hand, is about recognizing that some things are beyond our control, and instead of wasting energy fighting them, we focus our efforts on what we can influence. In this way, acceptance is not passive, it's a way of acknowledging reality and then making choices that reflect our values, rather than being caught in the grip of frustration and negativity. There are several practical techniques that can help us cultivate acceptance in our lives. One of the most powerful being cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing is the process of changing our perspective on a situation, essentially altering the way we think about it. This can be particularly useful when faced with challenges, setbacks, or circumstances that initially seem negative. By shifting our perspective, we can find new meaning in the situation and open ourselves up to new possibilities. For example, let's say you experience a setback in your career, such as being passed over for a promotion. Initially, this might feel like a personal failure or an injustice. However, by reframing the situation, you might see it as an opportunity to improve, learn new skills, or pursue a different career path. Instead of dwelling on the perceived wrong, reframing allows you to focus on the potential for growth and self-improvement. This shift in perspective is one of the key elements of Stoic acceptance, recognizing that while we cannot always control the events of our lives, we can control how we interpret them. Another effective technique for practicing acceptance is mindfulness. Mindfulness involves being fully present in the moment without judgment, and it is a powerful tool for cultivating acceptance. By practicing mindfulness, we can learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. Instead of reacting impulsively to a challenging situation, mindfulness allows us to pause, reflect, and choose a response that is more in line with our values. For example, imagine you're having a disagreement with a friend. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to let anger take over and say things you might later regret. But by practicing mindfulness, you can become aware of your emotions as they arise and choose not to react immediately. This pause gives you the opportunity to consider the situation more clearly, respond thoughtfully, and maintain a sense of control over your emotions. In this way, mindfulness helps you accept the feelings you're experiencing without allowing them to dictate your actions. Mindfulness can also help us accept the things we cannot change. Instead of resisting the reality of a situation, we can use mindfulness to acknowledge our emotions and then gently let them go. For instance, if you are faced with a challenging situation at work, mindfulness allows you to recognize your feelings of frustration or stress without becoming overwhelmed by them. By observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment, you can accept the situation as it is and move forward with a clearer mind. The combination of cognitive reframing and mindfulness offers a powerful toolkit for practicing acceptance in our lives. Together, these techniques can help us approach challenges with greater emotional resilience and mental clarity. By reframing our thoughts and practicing mindfulness, we are better able to let go of frustration, resentment, and negativity, and instead focus on what we can control: our thoughts, actions, and responses. Ultimately, the practice of acceptance allows us to live more fully in the present moment. When we stop fighting against the things we cannot change, we free up mental and emotional energy to focus on what truly matters. Acceptance helps us cultivate a sense of peace and calm, regardless of the external circumstances we face. It empowers us to take responsibility for our own emotional well-being, rather than relying on the world around us to provide us with happiness. One of the most important aspects of acceptance is the idea that it is not a one-time event, but an ongoing practice. Life is constantly changing, and we will inevitably face new challenges, setbacks, and unexpected events. Each time we encounter something beyond our control, we are given the opportunity to practice acceptance once again. Over time, as we continue to practice acceptance, we develop greater emotional resilience and become more adept at navigating life's ups and downs. In conclusion, acceptance is a central component of Stoic philosophy and a key practice for achieving inner peace. By acknowledging that some things are beyond our control and learning to accept them, we free ourselves from unnecessary emotional suffering and open ourselves up to greater peace and contentment. Techniques such as cognitive reframing and mindfulness can help us cultivate acceptance and improve our ability to navigate life's challenges with clarity and grace. Through acceptance, we learn to live in alignment with reality, focusing on what we can control and letting go of the things we cannot. This mindset fosters a sense of tranquility and empowers us to lead more fulfilling and balanced lives. The concept of inner strength holds a central place in Stoic philosophy, where it is not only about enduring life's difficulties, but about cultivating emotional resilience and mental fortitude through deliberate effort. Stoicism encourages us to view life's challenges as opportunities to strengthen our character, develop emotional toughness, and deepen our understanding of ourselves. This notion of inner strength, or virtue, is integral to living a flourishing life according to Stoic teachings. It is the ability to face adversity with grace, to maintain composure in the face of external turmoil, and to respond to situations in a way that aligns with our values, regardless of the circumstances. At its core, Stoic philosophy teaches that external events are not the true source of our happiness or contentment. Instead, it is our reactions to those events, governed by our inner strength, that determine our emotional state. Life, according to Stoics, is full of unpredictable challenges, but our ability to navigate these challenges is a direct reflection of our inner strength. The world may be chaotic, people may be difficult, and circumstances may not always be favorable, but our response to these situations is entirely within our control. The more we develop our mental toughness and emotional resilience, the more we equip ourselves to thrive in even the most difficult of circumstances. The importance of inner strength in Stoicism cannot be overstated. It is not enough to passively endure life's hardships. Stoics believe that we must actively work to build our inner fortitude. Through self-discipline, introspection, and deliberate practice, we can transform ourselves into individuals who are not only capable of handling adversity, but are strengthened by it. Inner strength is about developing the capacity to not only survive challenges, but to grow through them. One of the most powerful elements of Stoic practice is the emphasis on self-discipline. Self-discipline is the ability to control one's desires, impulses, and emotions, especially in difficult situations. It allows us to remain calm and focused even when external circumstances threaten to overwhelm us. For example, in a stressful work environment, a Stoic would practice self-discipline by keeping their emotions in check, remaining focused on the task at hand, and not letting anger or frustration interfere with their performance. Self-discipline in this context is a form of emotional regulation, where the Stoic actively decides not to react impulsively to the stressors around them, but instead chooses to respond thoughtfully and rationally. In addition to self-discipline, Stoicism places great emphasis on the importance of self-reflection in building inner strength. Self-reflection is the practice of taking a step back from our thoughts and emotions, examining our reactions to events and learning from them. Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This quote highlights the idea that true freedom comes from within, and it is through self-reflection that we gain mastery over our thoughts and actions. By regularly reflecting on our experiences, we can identify patterns in our behavior, recognize areas where we can improve, and make conscious decisions to change our approach to life's challenges. Take the example of someone who is struggling with anger. If they consistently react to frustrating situations with rage or irritation, their first step toward developing inner strength would be to reflect on these emotional responses. Through self-reflection, they can recognize that their anger is often triggered by feelings of powerlessness or injustice. By acknowledging this, they can begin to work on changing their mindset, focusing on what is within their control, and learning to respond to difficult situations with patience and calm rather than anger. This practice of self-awareness and reflection is crucial in developing emotional resilience, as it helps us understand the underlying causes of our reactions and gives us the tools to transform them. Stoic philosophy teaches that true strength comes not from avoiding hardship, but from embracing it and using it as an opportunity to grow. Life's challenges, rather than being obstacles, become stepping stones for personal development. This perspective encourages a mindset shift, where failures and setbacks are seen not as sources of shame or frustration, but as valuable learning experiences. The Stoic practice of turning adversity into opportunity is what allows individuals to cultivate the kind of inner strength that leads to lasting peace and fulfillment. For instance, imagine someone who faces a significant setback, such as a business failure. From a Stoic perspective, this failure is not something to be feared or avoided. Rather, it is an opportunity to learn. The individual may reflect on the mistakes made, analyze what went wrong, and develop strategies for improving in the future. This process of embracing failure, learning from it, and moving forward with a renewed sense of purpose is a key element of building inner strength. By reframing failure as a stepping stone rather than an obstacle, the Stoic transforms a potentially negative experience into an opportunity for growth. One of the core lessons in Stoicism is the concept of amor fati, or the love of fate. This idea encourages us to embrace whatever happens in life, even the difficult and painful experiences, with acceptance and gratitude. Instead of resisting the challenges we face, we are encouraged to welcome them as opportunities to practice virtue and strengthen our character. When we approach life with an attitude of amor fati, we cease to view challenges as burdens and begin to see them as opportunities for growth. This shift in perspective is crucial in developing the inner strength necessary to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and composure. Building inner strength also requires a certain level of detachment from external circumstances. Stoics believe that we should not attach our happiness or sense of worth to things that are outside our control, such as the opinions of others, material possessions, or external success. Instead, they encourage us to find contentment in our own actions, thoughts, and integrity. This detachment does not mean that we stop caring about the world around us, but rather that we stop letting external events dictate our emotional well-being. By detaching our happiness from external factors, we gain the freedom to live in accordance with our values and principles, regardless of what happens in the world around us. To develop inner strength, Stoics practice several techniques that help cultivate emotional resilience. One such technique is journaling, which allows individuals to reflect on their thoughts, emotions, and experiences in a structured way. By writing down their thoughts, individuals can gain clarity on their reactions to events and better understand their emotional responses. Journaling also provides an opportunity for self-examination, where individuals can reflect on their actions and make conscious decisions to improve their behavior. Another powerful Stoic practice is meditation. Stoic meditation involves focusing the mind on a particular thought or concept, such as a virtue, a challenge, or an area of personal growth. This practice helps individuals develop mental clarity, focus, and emotional control. By regularly engaging in meditation, Stoics can develop a deeper understanding of themselves, cultivate a sense of calm, and strengthen their ability to remain composed in the face of adversity. In addition to journaling and meditation, Stoics also practice premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This technique involves mentally preparing for the worst-case scenario, so that when challenges arise, individuals are better equipped to handle them. By contemplating potential difficulties in advance, Stoics can cultivate a sense of preparedness and resilience, which makes it easier to remain calm and composed when faced with adversity. Ultimately, the goal of building inner strength in Stoicism is to create a life that is not dependent on external circumstances. By developing self-discipline, practicing self-reflection, and embracing life's challenges, individuals can cultivate a deep sense of inner peace and emotional resilience. Stoic inner strength is not about avoiding difficulties or suppressing emotions, but about developing the capacity to respond to life's challenges with wisdom, courage, and grace. It is the ability to face adversity without losing our sense of self and to emerge from hardships stronger and more capable. Through continuous practice, self-awareness, and a commitment to personal growth, we could develop the inner strength necessary to lead a life of virtue, fulfillment, and lasting peace. Epictetus, one of the most influential figures in Stoic philosophy, proposed a radical shift in how we view happiness. According to him, happiness is not a distant goal or an endpoint that we are always striving toward. Rather, it is a state of mind, a mindset that we can actively cultivate and choose to maintain in the present moment. The idea that happiness is something we create in the now, rather than a future achievement or possession, is central to Stoic thought. Epictetus challenges us to focus on the present and make happiness a choice that we exercise every day in every situation. In modern life, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of external goals. We often tie our sense of happiness to things like career achievements, material wealth, or the approval of others. But according to Epictetus, these external factors are fleeting and unreliable sources of happiness. External circumstances, such as promotions at work or acquiring new possessions, can offer temporary satisfaction, but they cannot provide lasting happiness. True happiness, and when we focus on the now, rather than constantly chasing future accomplishments or dwelling on past regrets, we free ourselves from the cycle of dissatisfaction and begin to experience true contentment. Living in the present, in Stoic philosophy, is about fully embracing the current moment without getting lost in worries about the future or regrets about the past. This is a concept that many people find difficult to grasp in today's fast-paced, goal-oriented society. We are taught from a young age to always look ahead, to set long-term goals and to work toward future success. While these things are important, they should not come at the cost of our present well-being. Constantly worrying about what's coming next can steal our joy and peace in the moment. Epictetus emphasizes that happiness lies in how we engage with the present, not in future achievements or past experiences. Consider the example of someone who is constantly working toward a promotion at their job. While this goal might drive them to perform well and strive for improvement, if they place all their happiness in the achievement of this future goal, they may find themselves unhappy until they reach it. This constant postponement of happiness creates unnecessary stress and dissatisfaction. Instead of focusing solely on the promotion as the source of happiness, Epictetus would advise that the person shift their focus to the present, taking joy in the work they are doing right now, appreciating the skills they are developing, and finding contentment in the present moment, regardless of the outcome. Similarly, many people spend their time regretting past mistakes or experiences. This constant dwelling on the past prevents them from fully engaging with the present and enjoying the life they have now. Epictetus teaches that while we cannot change the past, we can learn from it and use it to improve our present actions. Rather than letting regret dictate our emotional state, we can focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our behaviors, and our reactions to the present moment. Living fully in the present moment is not only about letting go of future anxieties and past regrets. It also involves actively embracing the reality of the here and now. This means being mindful of our surroundings, appreciating the small things in life, and recognizing the value in the present moment. For example, when spending time with a loved one, rather than thinking about the tasks you have to complete later or the worries you have about the future, you can choose to be present with them, to listen actively, and to enjoy the conversation. In this moment, happiness is found not in some distant achievement, but in the simple act of being fully engaged with the present. Epictetus's emphasis on the present moment challenges the idea that happiness is a destination to be reached. Instead, he encourages us to view happiness as something we can cultivate right now, no matter what is happening around us. In practice, this means making the choice to focus on the present, to accept what we cannot change, and to control how we respond to the events of our lives. This shift in perspective is liberating because it means that we no longer have to wait for external circumstances to align perfectly in order to feel happy. We can create happiness right now by how we choose to engage with the world and with ourselves. There are several benefits to living in the present moment, as Epictetus would argue. First, it helps reduce anxiety. When we constantly worry about the future, we are living in a state of anticipation, which prevents us from fully experiencing life as it unfolds. By focusing on the present, we are able to let go of future worries and reduce the mental clutter that leads to stress. This shift from worrying about what may come to embracing what is happening now allows us to experience peace and tranquility. Another benefit of living in the present is that it fosters gratitude. When we focus on the present, we become more attuned to the things around us, the people, experiences, and simple joys that make life meaningful. In the rush of daily life, it's easy to overlook the beauty and value in small moments. However, by practicing mindfulness and embracing the present, we can develop a deeper appreciation for the world around us. This gratitude enhances our overall well-being and contributes to our sense of happiness. Epictetus also suggests that living in the present enables us to develop greater resilience. Life is full of challenges and uncertainties, but when we focus on the present, we can handle difficult situations more effectively. Instead of being overwhelmed by the unknowns of the future or bogged down by past mistakes, we learn to approach each moment with clarity and focus. This resilience allows us to stay grounded and navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease. One of the most powerful ways to integrate the Stoic philosophy of living in the present is by incorporating Stoic practices into daily life. These practices help us focus on what we can control and let go of what we cannot. One such practice is the use of negative visualization, or the premeditatio malorum. This technique involves imagining worst-case scenarios in order to prepare ourselves emotionally for challenges that may arise. By contemplating potential difficulties, we are able to approach them with a calm and rational mindset when they inevitably occur. This practice helps us to appreciate the present and prepare for the future without becoming overwhelmed by it. Another Stoic practice is journaling. By writing down our thoughts and reflections, we can gain clarity on our emotions and responses to the world around us. Journaling helps us focus on the present by encouraging us to reflect on our actions, decisions, and reactions in real time. It also allows us to track our progress in cultivating resilience, gratitude, and inner peace. By regularly reflecting on our experiences, we deepen our understanding of ourselves and our relationship with the present moment. Additionally, mindfulness practices, such as meditation, can be powerful tools for cultivating presence. Stoics did not have formal meditation techniques as we know them today, but their practices of contemplation and reflection align closely with modern mindfulness. Meditation allows us to focus our attention on the present, tune into our bodily sensations, and quiet the mind. This practice helps us become more aware of the moment, cultivating the ability to detach from distracting thoughts and live more fully in the now. The key to applying Stoic philosophy in daily life is to consistently remind ourselves that happiness is not something to be sought in the future or recovered from the past. It is something we can create right now, in the present moment, by focusing on what we can control and letting go of the rest. This is a powerful shift that can lead to lasting contentment, as it empowers us to take full responsibility for our emotional state. By practicing acceptance of what we cannot change and focusing on how we engage with life's challenges, we unlock the potential to live a life of peace, resilience, and happiness. In summary, the Stoic philosophy of living in the present offers a profound way to approach life and happiness. By embracing the present moment, letting go of future worries and past regrets, and focusing on what we can control, we can create the conditions for lasting happiness. Stoicism encourages us to shift our perspective from constantly striving for external achievements to finding contentment in the here and now. Through daily practices like mindfulness, journaling, and negative visualization, we can build the mental resilience and emotional peace necessary to live a fulfilling and joyful life. Happiness is often seen as something we chase after, a distant goal that we believe we can only attain through external achievements or the perfect set of circumstances. Yet, Epictetus, one of the foremost Stoic philosophers, flips this perspective on its head by asserting that happiness is not a result of external events, but rather a choice we make every day, shaped by how we respond to those events. According to Epictetus, happiness is an internal state, a state of mind that is governed not by what happens to us, but by our reactions to what happens. This core idea in Stoicism teaches us that we have the power to choose how we experience life. We cannot control the world around us, the actions of others, the events that befall us, or the natural course of life, but we can control our responses to these things. This means that while we may not be able to change the difficulties we face, we always have the ability to decide how we respond to them. It's this ability to choose our responses that Epictetus views as the key to happiness. If you think about it, this idea is liberating. Rather than waiting for external circumstances to align perfectly to bring us happiness, we are empowered to cultivate happiness right where we are. For example, consider the situation where someone faces a setback at work. Perhaps they didn't get the promotion they were hoping for. The natural reaction might be to feel disappointment, frustration, or anger. But instead of letting these emotions take over, we can choose how we react. Epictetus would suggest that we view the situation as an opportunity for growth, a chance to reflect on what we can improve or what we've learned from the experience. In doing so, the negative emotions tied to the event are transformed into a catalyst for personal growth, thus fostering happiness. In this way, happiness is not a passive outcome, it is an active choice. Every moment of our day provides an opportunity for us to decide how we will engage with the world. This perspective shifts the responsibility for our emotional well-being from the external to the internal. We stop waiting for the perfect job, the ideal relationship, or the perfect set of conditions to feel happy. Instead, we begin to realize that the power to be happy lies within our own hands. It is a decision that we make in every moment, not just after the big wins or achievements. Another important aspect of this Stoic perspective is the idea that happiness is sustained not by the pursuit of external goals, but by the development of inner strength and resilience. The Stoic teachings guide us to cultivate virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues, when practiced consistently, create a solid foundation for happiness that is not shaken by external events. In contrast, happiness derived from external factors like wealth or status is fragile and fleeting, as it depends on things that are outside our control. But the happiness that comes from living virtuously is something that we can cultivate, nurture, and carry with us through every circumstance. Take, for example, the experience of losing a job. For most people, this would be a major source of stress and frustration, especially if they tied their happiness to the job itself. But a Stoic approach would ask, what can we control in this situation? While the loss of the job is beyond our control, we can control our attitude toward it. We can choose to accept the loss with grace, look for opportunities to grow from the experience, and remain calm in the face of uncertainty. This kind of response, grounded in the Stoic principles of acceptance and self-control, leads to a deeper, more lasting happiness that is not dependent on the outcome of external events. Epictetus's philosophy also emphasizes the importance of inner peace and tranquility, which are not achieved by avoiding challenges, but by developing resilience in the face of them. The Stoics believe that it is not the events themselves that disturb us, but rather our judgments about those events. If we learn to reframe how we perceive challenges, we can maintain a sense of calm and emotional stability, even in difficult times. For instance, if you face criticism at work, instead of reacting with defensiveness or anger, you could choose to accept it as constructive feedback and use it to improve your skills. This shift in perspective, where we choose to view challenges as opportunities for growth, leads to a sense of peace and fulfillment that cannot be easily shaken by life's inevitable difficulties. Happiness, then, is not something that arrives as a result of a perfect set of circumstances or the fulfillment of all our desires. It is an ongoing practice of choosing how we engage with the world, how we respond to challenges, and how we align our actions with our values. The more we practice this mindset, the more natural it becomes to find happiness in the everyday moments of life. We stop looking for happiness in the future, and instead, we begin to experience it in the present, in the way we approach each day and each situation. Stoic philosophy is not about denying the difficulties of life, but about acknowledging them and choosing how to respond. It's about accepting what we cannot control and focusing our energy on what we can. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, emotions, and actions, we regain power over our happiness. We stop being passive recipients of whatever life throws at us and become active participants in our own emotional well-being. Epictetus's teachings provide a roadmap for finding happiness that is not dependent on external events. His philosophy offers us a way to free ourselves from the tyranny of external circumstances and find lasting contentment within. This is why happiness, according to Epictetus, is a choice. It's not something that is handed to us or something we have to wait for. It's something we can choose in every moment, regardless of the challenges we face. The key to this happiness lies in the realization that we have the power to control our responses. We can choose how we perceive the world and how we react to the events that happen in our lives. By practicing the principles of Stoicism, we can develop the inner strength and resilience needed to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and grace. This practice is not something that happens overnight, but over time, as we consistently choose to focus on what we can control, we cultivate a deeper, more sustainable form of happiness. If you are ready to embark on your own journey toward happiness, let the teachings of Epictetus and Stoicism be your guide. Reflect on what you can control in your life, let go of what you cannot, and choose to respond to life's challenges with acceptance and resilience. In doing so, you will discover that happiness is not something to be pursued, but something that you can choose and create every day. The path to happiness through Stoic philosophy is not about avoiding difficulties or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about developing the inner strength to face the inevitable challenges of life with calmness, clarity, and a positive mindset. As you begin to practice these principles, take a moment to reflect on how they apply to your own life. Think about the areas where you may be looking for happiness in external circumstances and how you can shift your focus inward to the things that are within your control. Happiness is a choice, and it's a choice that you can make every day, no matter what life brings your way. I encourage you to take this opportunity to reflect on how Stoic principles can be applied to your own life. How can you shift your mindset to focus more on what you can control? How can you begin to choose happiness every day? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below as we all embark on this journey of finding happiness in the present moment, one choice at a time. And there you have it, the powerful message from Epictetus and the core of Stoic philosophy. Happiness isn't something we wait for or chase. It's something we choose, something we actively create by how we engage with the world. It's in every decision, every response, every moment of our lives. But here's the thing, it's not always easy. The world doesn't stop throwing challenges our way. But that's the beauty of Stoicism. It teaches us that we have the power to control how we respond, to shift our mindset, and to find peace within ourselves. That's where true happiness lies, in our own hands, shaped by our thoughts, actions, and attitudes. I'd love to hear from you. How do you apply these Stoic principles in your life? What challenges have you faced where you've been able to shift your mindset and choose happiness? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's start a conversation and learn from each other. If you found this video helpful, please consider hitting that like button, sharing it with friends, and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, don't forget to use the super thanks button. Your support helps me keep creating videos that bring value to you, and it's deeply appreciated. Remember, happiness is not a destination. It's a choice that you make every single day. Choose wisely, choose intentionally, and choose happiness right here, right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.